Over the past 5 months, Texas legislators have filed over 8,700 bills. If you follow state politics, you've probably heard of some of them. They tackle big, headline-grabbing issues like THC sales, abortion, immigration enforcement, and public school funding. There's hundreds, thousands of others that haven't made the news, and only about 20% will actually be signed into law. When I recorded the first bonus episode to this podcast in April, I told you about just one of those bills, which would be the most significant improvement to senior living security since Billy Chemirmir's killing spree. I'll be honest, I expected that bill to be part of the 80% that never made it to the governor's desk. Similar bills have failed in the 2 previous legislative sessions, and there wasn't a lot to make me think this year would be any different. But I've got news. Big news. I'm Charlie Scudder, and this is a special bonus episode of The Unforgotten, Season 2, Unnatural Causes. Chapter 11, The Final Vote.
Here, recognizes Ms. Garcia Hernandez.
This is the Texas House on May 20th. Senate Bill 1283, the one I told you about already, had passed the Senate unanimously, which is rare enough. Then, it made it out of the House Committee on Human Services with a favorable recommendation. Now, you're hearing the full House debate dozens of bills for what's called the second reading. If it passes here, it will likely become law. Many of the bills are heavily debated at this stage, mostly along party lines.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, please extend me your courtesy of giving me your time, attention, and compassion on this bill and the families that are here with us today in the gallery.
High above in the House gallery sat 3 of the women you've heard from throughout the series. Cheryl Pangburn, whose mother Marilyn Bixler was killed at Parkview Frisco, Shannon Dion, whose mother Doris Gleason was killed at the Tradition Prestonwood, and Lauren Smith, whose mother Phyllis Payne was killed at Edgemere. For most of the day, the House representatives had been paying half attention, making jokes and chit-chatting as bills were considered one after another. But the hall fell silent as House Representative Cassandra Garcia Hernandez, a Democrat from northern Dallas County, stood at the front podium to introduce the bill.
In the 2010s, through lax security and exploitation of weak protocols in North Texas senior living communities, over 24 senior citizens were stalked, robbed, and murdered by serial killer Billy Chemirmir. He infiltrated these facilities to prey on his victims. His criminal history should have precluded him from employment at these facilities. These lack of background checks and security procedures contributed to his ability to access and murder these women. Senate Bill 1283 enhances the safety and security of our residents of senior retirement communities and would ensure that such an atrocity can never happen again. The bill establishes clear guidelines for prevention and response to criminal activities by mandatory criminal background checks for employees, disclosure of whether third-party service providers conduct background checks, establishment of a resident safety and communications policy regarding criminal activity. The policy must detail reports made to law enforcement from or within the community, reports of criminal trespass, and a prohibition on restriction of residents from speaking with law enforcement, social workers, family members, or others about safety concerns without fear of retaliation from the retirement community, as well as they cannot obstruct law enforcement from conducting voluntary interviews with residents. SB 1283 empowers seniors, provides and promotes greater accountability for retirement community operators and administrators, and will ultimately protect the safety and welfare of Texans living in senior retirement communities.
As Garcia Hernandez spoke, more and more representatives, Republicans and Democrats, stood quietly behind her. It was a remarkable and rare moment of bipartisanship in the state capitol.
And before I move passage, I wanted to recognize Shannon and the group that arose from this tragedy. Secure Our Seniors' Safety, which comprises of family members of the victims from these murders. They're in the gallery with us today. Please stand up. It has been a great honor. It's been a great honor and a pleasure to work with you all and to have your trust on this bill. For our seniors, members join us and let's save our seniors. I move passage.
Members, the question occurs on passage to third reading of Senate Bill 1283. A record vote has been requested. The clerk will ring the bell.
When lawmakers vote in the Texas House, a large board on the wall records the tally. Green lights for yay, red lights for nay. As the Texas House began casting their votes for SB 1283, the entire board lit up with green lights.
Show Ms. Jones of Harris voting aye. Show Mr. Patterson voting aye. Mr. De Ayala voting aye. Have all members voted? Show Ms. Gervin Hawkins voting aye. Have all members voted? Oh, show Ms. Kirwan voting aye. Here we go. There being 128 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 1283 is passed to third reading.
Just a few minutes after the vote, I called Cheryl, Lauren, and Shannon.
We're here.
All right, hi.
Hi, so it's Cheryl and Lauren and Shannon.
They were already on a rooftop in Austin, drinks in hand.
Was the opening statement not powerful?
It really was.
She got him to shut up.
Yeah, especially with all that.
And it was unanimous.
Yeah,
Holy shit, Charlie, that doesn't happen.
yeah. That's, I mean, in both houses.
In both houses. Yeah. You know, murdered grandmoms will do it.
Jesus Christ.
If you can't agree on murdered grandmoms, what can you agree on?
Why do you think this was different? I keep going through my head of like, what made
I'll let
this?
them answer.
I'll tell you what I think. When we walked down the stairs, and it was Republican Jared Patterson and Democrat Cassandra Hernandez Garcia. But Jared said, he's like, that's what I told you. It just takes a minute to catch fire. By the third time that we show up, people are listening. We've been back. We went back for a third time.
How does it feel?
Oh my God! We wish you were here to cheer with us with our champagne.
Yeah.
Like it's really, it's, I'm getting a little emotional. It's really incredible that after so much and so much pushing and so much like,
Yes.
almost, I never would believe the day kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Charlie.
Yeah.
Wow.
Charlie, you have been there through the whole journey from the very beginning. So thank you from the very beginning. Very beginning. So thank you. Mm-hmm. You're part of the family.
I'm just telling the story.
Well,
But
yeah,
thank
but you got emotionally connected way back in the beginning.
You sure did.
So you're doing your job, but you also are invested in a different way than most.
I talked a lot in season 2 of this podcast about how this case has impacted me over the years. That's not very comfortable for me. I'm a journalist, so I'm not used to talking about myself. It's what other people say and do that's interesting, not me. It's also hard for me to take credit for things that happen, good or bad, as a result of my work. Of course, I want my work to have impact, but how do you measure that? Would this bill have passed without me? Probably. But did this podcast help inform more people about the case and why it matters? I hope so. I know.
think in the moment, we were all so much more overwhelmed than I think we thought we would be.
Yeah.
We all got so emotional. Now we're celebrating, but
Yeah.
in the moment,
It was overwhelming.
It was overwhelming. It was so powerful to just look down
You heard our mother's voice, or
Yeah.
our mother's name on the house.
On the house floor.
Yeah, they had been all chatty, not always paying great attention on some of the others, and it just got.
It was almost reverent.
Yeah.
It was reverent.
Exactly.
Good word. It was
Exactly.
reverent. But no, to watch the board like light up with all of the it was amazing. I don't think we ever thought we'd see the day.
Yeah, I was going to say.
We didn't. We weren't going to believe it. None of us wanted to believe it until we actually saw it for ourselves. The other thing that was cool is that they're not done like Cassie's office, like they're not done with this bill. Like they're ready to go back next session and do some tweaking to it to give it a little bit more teeth. Like they've got a cause now, you know.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Like, what's next?
We thought we were going to kind of be done because we were just happy to get this far. They were like, oh no, and Shannon will have to tell you because Cassie was directly talking to her. Like, no, you're not done, Shannon. You are a great advocate. You're so good at it, and there's more that we can do. Is basically what they were telling her.
Yeah.
They're like, wow. Next session, you're going to be back.
Yeah. Wow.
But now that we have people working with us.
You may remember that Cheryl had moved to Georgia recently, meaning she flew in for this vote. I asked her why she had stayed so invested, even though she now lives out of state.
The bottom line is that it was for our moms, and it was an industry that is getting away with too much, and it doesn't matter where I live, it needs to be addressed all over the entire country. So it just started here. Yeah. It's a problem everywhere.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'd do it again, you know? And it's funny because, yeah, they were like, yeah, we might be calling y'all back next session. Yeah. We're kind of speechless right now, you know?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh, that's wonderful.
6 years, you know. How long do you have it till? Yeah.
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 The passage of this law is obviously a major milestone for the families of Chemirmir's victims, and it definitely closes many of the loopholes that we've identified that allowed Chemirmir to kill undetected. But for some of his murders, this particular law would not have stopped him. Take the tradition Prestonwood, for example. The law that was just passed in Austin will let residents know if a third-party company does background checks on employees. But Chemirmir was never employed by the tradition and wasn't working for any third-party company when he came to the property. He just snuck into the community parking garage over and over through an unlocked door. Granted, when property managers did become aware of the trespasser, this law would have required them to alert residents, which the tradition Prestonwood did not do. It's possible that alone would have saved lives. When testifying in the Senate committee, Lauren said her mother would not have opened the door if she knew a trespasser had been reported on the property.
If my mother and so many others knew that there had been a criminal trespasser, they would never have opened their door. This is a simple crime watch for residents.
But what about Chemirmir's other victims, like those he found at Walmart and followed to their private homes, like Mary Sue Brooks and Lutie Kim Harris? Or Carolyn McPhee, who he met while legitimately working as an in-home caregiver for her dying husband. A major part of why those murders went unidentified was because of investigative assumptions about the age of the victims. Remember, here's Brandon Garrett, the Duke University expert in forensic science, who told us how these so-called false negative mistakes can leave killers unidentified.
False negatives have enormous consequences too. And in many of these fields, there's evidence that false negatives may happen just as often or even more often. And it was sort of widely ignored because, well, that doesn't matter in real life. But of course, it matters enormously in real life. It matters to public safety. False negatives are also of enormous consequence and have become more high profile in the medical death area. So often when it's a police involved killing, that medical examiners suggest that there might be other explanations or natural causes. This case highlights that these issues may be far more common than appreciated in cases that might never have attracted public attention, had there not been this serial killer that was sort of caught in the act of one of the killings. But it sounds like this is the kind of thing that would have gone unnoticed for years had it not been for happenstance. It suggests that also when you have sort of more vulnerable, less privileged people, here it's elderly people who aren't a priority in society, that they may suffer the most from these kinds of false negatives.
I called Robert McPhee a few days after the bill passed the House. Remember, his mother, Carolyn McPhee, hired an in-home care company to care for her husband. That company had contracted Billy Chemirmir under the name Benjamin Koitaba. A few months after her husband died, Chemirmir came back to the home and murdered Carolyn. Later, the family found out that the in-home care company never did a background check on Koitaba/Chemirmir. Well, yeah, so I'm doing a bonus episode of the podcast with this law passing. What was your reaction when you heard it passed?
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing that these idiots in Austin can't do it the first time.
I was gonna say it kind of surprised me, honestly, because of the, I guess, struggle it's been the last couple times that it went through unanimously.
Yeah, it makes absolutely no sense. But you're talking government.
Sure.
It was a surprise, great surprise. Now we just have to get it. Next one is law doing background checks for in-home health care, because there's nobody requires anything. They say they do it, but they don't. Obviously, you know that.
Robert says he wants to see more regulations on in-home caregivers. After the bill passed unanimously in the House and the Senate, legislators have told SOSS board members like Robert that they want to continue working on this issue in future sessions.
There has to be consequences and penalties, like stiff penalties. Huge fines. Close the business, shut the business down, or franchise. If it's really huge, like murder, there should be somebody, possible jail time. There has to be some huge thing, so somebody goes, you know what, I don't want to risk a $500,000 fine. I'm just happy that this stuff is going the right way, where we can get regulations in place to keep the future people safe. It's too bad that it had to get to this for a bill to pass that should have been there the entire time.
The morning after the bill passed the House on second reading, it was read a third and final time, a final stamp of approval. Again, it passed unanimously. But because the governor did not veto it before a 10-day deadline last week, it will officially be law in the state of Texas. It is set to go into effect September 1st. Shannon texted me a few minutes later. "We're going to build on this," she said. If and when they do, we'll be back. Until then, The Unforgotten is a free-range production. Season 2, Unnatural Causes, is created, written, and hosted by me, Charlie Scudder. Our producer is Wes Ferguson. Theme song by A.J. LeGrand. Wes Ferguson is the executive producer at Free Range.